Nova Scotia has become the first official province to end its agreement to hold immigration detainees in its provincial jails, while Saskatchewan has launched its new controversial method to attract newcomers from very specific nations only. We'll give you the details to keep you up to date. You're watching My Consultant. In this week's episode, we're covering the permanent resident invitation increase for the month of August. Next, Canadian campus pop-up SIN clinics. Followed by the first province to officially end its agreement to hold immigration detainees in its provincial jails. Stay with us as I give you the details on Saskatchewan's new controversial method to retain newcomers, and Tina will share the IRCC's extension to its temporary public policy for international students. This week's episode of My Consultant is brought to you by Scotia Bank.
Canada has invited over 24,000 immigrants as their new permanent residents during the month of August 2023. Last month, Canada sent out 24,720 invitations to apply for permanent residency in 36 new rounds of invitations through various Canadian immigration programs. This is an almost 55% increase in the total number of invitations for permanent residency as compared to the invitations that were sent out in the month of July.
Service Canada is partnering with universities across the country to issue eligible international students with their new social insurance number. On campuses throughout the month of September, international and domestic students can meet with Service Canada staff at their drop-in SIN clinic to get their SIN processed and issued on the spot. A social insurance number, also known as SIN or SIN number, is a 9-digit number that you need in order to legally work in Canada or to have access to the government's benefits and programs. If you are an international student and you are planning on working in Canada or filing income tax, you will need a social insurance number. International students will receive a SIN starting with the number 9, as it indicates to employers that you are a temporary resident. Certain students who are not eligible for a SIN, such as exchange students without a study permit, can get the 9-digit individual tax number, also known as ITN, instead. If you are an international student without a work permit, you will need to get an ITN in order to file for your Canadian income tax return or to apply for family benefits and credits. Be mindful that most SIN clinics require registration or an appointment. Check to see what your campus SIN clinic requires, as some schools offer a first come, first serve. In order for Service Canada to facilitate a SIN, you will need to bring the following documents with you to the clinic. 1. Your passport. 2. Your study permit. And 3. A confirmation of enrollment letter from your university or your student ID card, depending on your university. Electronic copies, such as pictures on your phone, will not be accepted.
Nova Scotia has become the first province in Canada to stop holding immigration detainees in its jails on behalf of the federal government. Nova Scotia has determined that the provincial correctional facilities are not the appropriate place for individuals who are under Immigration and Refugees Protection Act. Other provinces such as British Columbia and Alberta have stated that they will also stop holding immigration detainees.
The debut of Saskatchewan's new method of immigration selection has been met with some raised eyebrows. Naturally, the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, abbreviated as SINP, allows a province to select and nominate immigrants from specific occupational backgrounds to live and work in the province as permanent residents. However, in August, the program only sent invitations to skilled immigrants residing in 8 specific countries, All but one of the nations selected in the program are from Europe. This move has raised concerns about the departure from Canada's traditionally inclusive immigration system that welcomes people from all races and nationalities. Saskatchewan officials defend that these draws are intended to target immigrants with a higher likelihood of succeeding and remaining in the province. All the while, experts have raised concerns that this may signify a return to Canada's old ethnocentric immigration selection practices, arguing that it is very controversial to select based on perceived fit simply due to one's nationality. Historically, Canada had an immigration system that preferred immigrants from what was described as culturally similar countries, excluding those from non-European, South Asian, and Chinese backgrounds. It wasn't until 1967 when Canada introduced a points-based system that assessed applicants based on objective criteria, such as education, language proficiency, work experience, and employment skills. While provinces like Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, and Alberta have a high immigrant retention rate of at least 80%, other provinces like Saskatchewan struggle to keep their newcomers despite their provincial nominee programs. It's said Saskatchewan's country-specific pilot is an effort to use resources more efficiently and attract the newcomers that are likely to stay. Successful recruits will be issued a work permit as their permanent resident applications are being processed. Saskatchewan plans to evaluate the pilot project's success upon its completion in December.
IRCC has announced that they are extending distance learning measures that were implemented throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Students who completed less than 50% of their studies outside of Canada will be eligible for post-graduation work permit until December 31st, 2023. Prior to the pandemic, in order to be eligible for a post-graduation work permit, international students were required to complete more than 50% of their studies inside Canada. Students who completed more than 50% of their studies online outside Canada were not eligible for a post-graduation work permit. However, due to the inability to travel during the pandemic, IRCC eliminated this restriction for international students who, in March 2020, were enrolled in post-graduation work permit eligible programs in progress or started post-graduation work permit eligible programs between March 2020 and August 31st, 2022. This means that anyone who began their studies outside Canada before August 31st, 2022 is eligible to apply the entirety of that time towards eligibility of a post-graduation work permit. However, if a student began their studies between September 1st, 2022 and August 31st, 2023, only 50% of the time will be counted. Until December 31st, 2023, eligible students who graduate from two eligible programs of study that were either in progress in March 2020 or begun during March 2020 and August 31st, 2022 may be able to complete 100% of both programs outside of Canada if both programs were in progress in March 2020 or began between March 2020 and August 31st, 2022. And combine the duration of their programs of study when applying for a post-graduation work permit in the future. The current extension and measure does not apply to students who started studying abroad after September 1st, 2023 or who enrolled in a program after August 31st, 2022. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you are looking for more information and updates about Canada immigration, then please subscribe to our My Consultant YouTube channel. You can also visit our website myconsultant.ca, where you can find an authorized immigration and citizenship consultant. I am Tina Batra.
And I'm Tashina Thompson, and we'll see you next week.